Hello. Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Isadora. I am the program manager at Amsterdam Tech, and I'll be hosting today's Q&A. So we are hosting the Tech Mind series webinar, and our guest today is Hayo. So he's a headhunter for tech and consultancy companies, and he's going to speak to us a little bit. Hi, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks, Isadora. Great to be part of this series.
Thank you so much for coming and replying to some of the questions that we have. So, as you know, I wrote down some questions for you that could help some of the students and some people out there. I'll start with the first question, which is you speak with a lot of tech companies and candidates every day. So, from your side of the table, what has changed the most in hiring in the last 2 to 3 years?
I think that there's a big tension in speed versus quality. What I've seen over the past couple of years, Isadora. So, a lot of tech companies. I mostly work for scale up, so the not the super big tech companies, but more the fast growing ones. That they want to move fast, but that it's also an era where people tend to be very risk averse. So there's a lot of tension on geopolitical issues. So you see that there's a lot of urgency with these tech companies, and on the other side, sometimes they do delay a lot of processes. And that's quite challenging from a candidate perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, and that especially within tech, education is very important. So the tech companies, the clients of mine, they really look at your educational part, but also the skills that you have really emphasize the fact what you've been doing over the last couple of years, and not just rely on a typical old-fashioned LinkedIn profile, but really focused as well on the skills you've developed and you've worked on. And the other side is that I see that a lot of companies are really looking for talent everywhere. Can be at finance, can be at HR, can be developers, but that everybody really knows their thing or two about AI, and then not just the generative part, but also the deeper language models, and that you cannot do without AI knowledge in any job at the moment. And it sounds a bit obvious, but the more you know, the better conversations you will have.
That's true. And then are they also asking for portfolios to show these skills?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, definitely. And what I see is that, of course, my clients as well, sometimes they post their jobs online. So then you have a LinkedIn job. But that system is pretty broken. A lot of candidates can apply in 20 seconds with a great application letter made by Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini. And then also the companies, they do a lot of filtering via other AI tools. So then at a certain point, you have a generative AI tool producing a resume or an application letter, and another AI tool looking at it. So that's not an ideal situation. Yeah, I've seen it happen, and it's not working very good at this moment. So what I see is as well that if you apply, don't just apply online and leave it from there, but really put a lot of effort into contacting people directly, and indeed not just send your LinkedIn URL or your PDF CV, which you adjusted, but these portfolios tend to become really, really important. I see that besides LinkedIn, if you're really more into software development, my typical clients will look more for GitHub background and other types of portfolios than just your LinkedIn profile.
Perfect. That's great. And then when you present these candidates to the tech companies, what makes someone stand out if they don't have years of experience yet?
Yeah, I think that everybody knows nowadays that the best talent doesn't necessarily have a very typical CV. I think when when I was younger and the age of my parents, you needed a certain educational level, and then you would have a job connected to that education, and then you would retire. And that role does change dramatically, of course. So I think that also positioning yourself at what you do besides your work, volunteer work, sports, those are really important parts. I know tech companies that are really excited about candidates who have a sports background just because they know how to play in a team, they know how to perform under high pressure. So if I would position two candidates to them and one would have an awesome CV with all kinds of beautiful background, and one would have a bit of a checkered, a bit of strange CV, but with a really good sports background, some of these clients are really interested more in those profiles. So you see that who you are is also very important. That's not just your resume build up with an education beneath it, but it's also the things you do next to your work life.
Because this also shows like your personal skills, like interpersonal skills, and how you can talk to other people, and that also makes a difference in any kind of job.
It's a huge difference. And I think sometimes candidates looking for a job also underestimate themselves or underestimate that part. So you don't have to brag about all kinds of things you've done next to your work. But if you were really good at a certain sport, or you tend to run a very, very decent 10 miles once in a while, I mean, talk about it. But also if you're a great cook or you do volunteering work anywhere else, I mean, these are very important issues. They sort of make you human in a system where we also see, like what we discussed before, Isadora, that things are being filtered a lot on the hard skills, education level, the number of years of work experience, whereas really distinguishing yourself as a person is very important. And therefore you need stories, you need small narratives and things you enjoy and prove your passion about certain parts.
Great. Yeah, I think those are good tips as well for people, because I think most like don't take into account those soft skills when you're applying. You think a lot about the technical skills, which is also important. But
I see that a lot, and it's pity because people, they make a difference at the company, not just because the things they've learned or the number of years they've worked, but really on what they bring, their motivation, their dedication, their commitment. And you can have really good conversations about that, not just on work life, but also on private life, and then really identify if somebody's a good fit for the job. And I think that's being underestimated once in a while. So it's always my advice to work on that side, on those storylines.
Perfect. And then what are, you think, the most common mistakes that you see the students or people like early in their career making when trying to get hired?
Yeah, I think what we discussed a bit is that it's so easy to apply online, and there are even SaaS tools for people applying that will keep track of your application process, because sometimes people looking for a job, they apply to 20, 30 different jobs at a certain afternoon, because it's so easy to apply online that they lose track of where they applied. They might apply 2 times, which doesn't really look good at a hiring company. And also they don't make it too personally, and that's a pity. If you just push on the instant apply button on LinkedIn, upload your CV, and then you leave it, for me, that's not really a job application. That's just ticking the box that you've done something in that afternoon, but it's not really making an effort. So make a bit of a different effort there. Contact people directly via LinkedIn. Look at the companies you like, at people you know. Maybe you've seen a shared connection on LinkedIn with somebody you know. Well, send that person a message, give that person a call. If you make a bit of a more effort, doesn't mean you have to spend hours and hours of work, because there are all kinds of tools that can help us these days. But just the easy apply button isn't good enough. I mean, that's generally
Yeah.
not working very well.
Just a little effort, I think, already shows that you're different from other people, right? Because most
Absolutely.
people don't do that.
No, they don't do it, and it distinguishes yourself from maybe 80 or 90% of the general applicants. So it's a big difference, and a small effort. It shows who you are. Maybe also make a small joke or something that relates very much to the company. I mean, show an interest. Be really authentically interested in the organization and in the job. I mean that helps so much. Also later in your career. If you just landed a job with a random application, it also doesn't feel good. It's
Yeah.
like achieving something without putting a lot of effort. That doesn't work for us humans very well.
Yeah. And also, like, I think nowadays, like you said, it's so easy to apply online. Just click the button that there are like 500 candidates. I don't know. There's so many candidates that you need to stick out in one way, you know? So,
Yeah, no, definitely. A normal job online at a regular startup or scale up in the Netherlands, yeah, you will have about 200 applicants, and
yeah.
a lot can be filtered, but sometimes the good CVs are being filtered out by an AI agent because they're the atypical ones, and you really
Yeah.
want the atypical ones for certain roles. So yeah, there's a whole system out there which is not really functioning very well, and then it's up to the students and to the people looking for a new career to really create a little bit more effort. And it's yeah, it works. It's also nice. It gives pleasure. It makes life fun if you put in a little bit more effort.
Yeah. If you work for it, you are happier when you get it, I think, as well.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And then, if a student came to you and said, I want a good job in tech in 6 months, like what would your step-by-step advice be?
Yeah, I mean I think 6 months is of course very reasonable. I think that what we talked about at the beginning, that sometimes the hiring process is not super fast at the moment. It's 2026 now, but it's
Yeah.
not that hiring is going super fast. But 6 months is okay, of course. Maybe 3 is even also reasonable. Um, but make a list, really look at it from a project perspective. I mean, create a Google Sheet or Note or whatever. Make a list of companies you like, the companies that are very passionate about the topic you really like, or certain technology, or certain type of product or market you enjoy. And let all these chat tools, generative AI tools, help you with creating lists. It's very easy. If you like a couple of companies, then look for even more. And if you have 10 or 15 companies you really like, look at who the contact people are. I mean, check on LinkedIn. Also get a little bit of data on how long people are working there. Really try to understand the company as good as possible from online research, which is easier nowadays than it was ever before. And look at the key stakeholders, not necessarily the recruiters at these companies, because they are very busy and they tend to filter out people that they don't know. So, but look at the hiring managers. Look at if you're applying for a machine learning engineer role, check out the profile of the head of technology or the CTO, and if that person is somebody you know or somebody you can connect to. And ask that person a question. I mean, generally applying with saying, this is who I am, hire me, is not working super well.
Yeah.
But we all know that if you ask questions, then life becomes easier. So ask a question based on the job description and send that CTO a message and say, hey, I've looked at the job description. I've seen you work with these type of technologies, but I'm curious to understand, are you also moving in direction A, B, or C, or have you combined things with a new machine learning platform that you know? I mean, ask a
Yeah.
very basic interested question, and you will see things will change. But if you just apply and say, this is my CV and leave it there, I mean,
You
everybody's
would
doing that.
recommend sending more like a message to not necessarily the recruiters, but the people that are hiring, as in the hiring managers or someone that works or will be part of your team if you get that job, right?
Absolutely. Because if then the hiring manager, the CTO, thinks that you really asked a great question, then he or she will forward that message to their internal recruitment department and will say, hey, I've received this application online. I'm too busy to follow up with it, but I think this could be a genuinely interesting candidate because I think the question is really awesome that person. And then the recruiter, of course, has their CTO, head of technology, asking them if they can follow up. They will do so. It will give you an easier entrance than, once again, that online application system, which is pretty broke.
Yeah. No, these are great tips. I think the students are really gonna like it and use it as well for when they're applying for jobs. And
yeah, show passion, show interest, show really deep motivation of understanding things, and ask questions. Ask as many questions as you possibly can, because that shows that you're interested.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. Really, I really liked what you said to us, all of the tips and everything. And thank you so much for coming. I think this is a topic that everyone wants to know as well, and everyone is, I guess, confused when applying as well, because there are so many applications open, so many people applying, so many generative AI in the middle, so people get a little bit confused. So I think with these like specific tips, I think it will be good.
No, absolutely. Enjoy helping, Isadora, and if there are any follow-up sessions or things that I can be of support of, I'm most happy to continue the collaboration there.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Isadora.
Bye.
Bye.